Dolly friends, welcome back, or if this is your first visit to the doll cupboard, welcome. I mentioned I have a dollhouse I'm working on, and this is it. It's an old cupboard or shelf my husband painted years ago. We were going to get rid of it, but as I was staring at its emptiness, I began to have a vision. As you can see, I began throwing my dolls and furniture in it, creating rooms and playing. Unfortunately, in my enthusiasm, I even papered the walls with a design I printed on computer paper. I don't recommend doing this. My vision includes 6 rooms. The 3 on the top floor from right to left are the parlor, the kitchen, and the nursery. The room I'm starting with is the parlor, and today I'm working on the floor and the wallpaper. Eventually, I'll do walls and ceilings and have a little crawl space even. Pia's going to clean the room so I can get started. Thanks, Pia. The first thing I want to do is create a floor, so I need to stain my coffee sticks. The only ones I had were the ones with the rounded ends, so I have to cut them off. When I started the first batch, I did it with my wire cutters. Another practice I don't recommend. I do recommend these miter shears. Mine were a Christmas gift. Yes, I sanded all the rough ends. I stain them in batches of 10. This is the stain I used. It's Varathane wood stain in true brown. I got it at Michael's. I did 2 coats. I created a template on some scrap cardstock and laid out my floor to see if I was even capable of such an endeavor. My plan was to have a fairly random but not haphazard arrangement. I'm using some flat rocks to weigh the boards as I work. I'm using Gorilla wood glue and a sponge stick. I spread it very thinly because I didn't want my paper to get too saturated. Every now and then I'd measure and cut the pieces that I needed to fill in. After I did half the floor, I thought I would trim the ends. My miter shears didn't work, and I ended up using my utility knife, scoring it on the wrong side and cutting it on the right side. This was pretty tedious, but had a good result. Stubborn piece. I just couldn't wait and had to see how it looked in the doll's house. The second half went more smoothly, and I trimmed the ends as I worked. Ta-da! I'm just so impatient. I had to throw it in there and put a rug and everything. Overall, I'm happy with the floor being my first time, and of course I will include a baseboard. What do you think? On to the dreaded wallpaper. I already used an ineffective method to try to get some of it off, which was just water and a washcloth. I read this technique online: poke holes in the wallpaper with a pin. I would actually recommend doing this with a flower frog if you have one, because you really need lots of opportunities for the solution to get in. This is a 50-50 solution of vinegar and water. Vinegar and water helps dissolve PVA glues like Mod Podge, which I used. If I must do this again, which I hope I never do, I would saturate the wall even more. Let it sit at least 30 minutes. The key is to work carefully and slowly, two things which are not in my nature. It has the appearance of being one of those satisfying processes which makes you feel calm and peaceful. But it isn't. Back to the floors. After all was said and done, I decided I wanted the floors darker, so I was going to need to sand them. Unfortunately, I was impatient and had coated them with a coat of Mod Podge to protect them. So yes, I was going to need to sand it off. Leave a comment if you love sanding your projects. I'm just dusting off the debris with the sponge stick. It actually works really well. I mixed some brown and black paint and some water since I didn't have any darker stain. I tested this on an extra coffee stick I had to make sure I was going to like the effect. I could not be happier with it. What do you think? I set a piece of the wallpaper I downloaded from the internet to see how it would look together. It's a 1920s dollhouse scale paper. I sanded my walls, then vacuumed them since Pia had gone off with her friends and the other dolls are lazy and don't like to do housework or projects. I'm just checking the fit again. I attached it to some craft paper to give it some stability. I have no idea if this is going to work. There will be a little area for crown molding. I put some tacky glue on the edges only before I placed it because I don't think I can bear a removal again. You can see a little bit of the paper that I used and how I applied the glue. And here's where I should have stopped. But I knew those walls needed to be protected, so I started adding my thin layer of Mod Podge right away. My hope was that it would adhere to the wallpaper to the craft paper template, but you can see here, you can see it buckling already. Yet I continue. Of course, my heart is sinking, but I still have hope that a miracle will occur. By some alchemy, it dried flat as a board and looks amazing, except for my little mistakes. Thank you so much for joining me today for my first big dollhouse project and the many lessons I learned. Next week, while I wait for my crown molding and baseboard to arrive, I plan to share part of a huge box of minis that a friend sent me. If you enjoyed watching this video and have advice or suggestions for me, please leave a comment and a thumbs up. Join me next week in the doll cupboard.